Shalom, Israel. This is Israelite Prepper. Just wanted to do a quick analysis. I announced that going forward, I was going to add a few other things in my repertoire to talk about regarding, or at least for the group Israelite Prepper and for the website. And one of those things I want to do is add debate analysis, because we're free to talk about Bible doctrine. And so today I want to just give a quick analysis of a debate I was listening to, and it's between Brother Minister and Zadok Ben Israel. The title of the debate is, should all Old Testament laws be kept? Okay, something to that effect. Also, the link is in the bottom, in the description box there, so you can check it out. But I wanted to give a little debate. Now, most of these debates last, up to about 3 hours, maybe a little bit longer. But at first blush, I would like to simply say, oh, this was a great, debate. But before we get that, let me tell you a little bit of the ground rules. The debate took place on Debate Talk for You, hosted by the host Sal Showtime, a great guy. I've talked to him on the phone. I've even debated on the channel, on the platform before. But one of the things I won't do is I won't analyze my own debates. Okay, so you won't see me analyzing my own debates or whatever. But what I will do is give an analysis of the debate. Okay, and then it doesn't matter whether or not I agree with the doctrine. Obviously, depending on the combatants, I will agree with certain doctrines. I won't agree with other doctrines. However, how I will analyze and just give my humble opinion of who I thought won, it will be based on their argumentation, okay, and their proof. What proof and argumentation, and did you present it well, okay, in a clear, concise, cohesive way, okay, following the debate format, which leads me to the next thing that I want to talk about. See, the debate format is really simple. Or debaters have an opening statement. You get an opening statement, you have maybe 2 rebuttal rounds, and then you have cross-examination, where one debater will ask questions to the other for 8 to 10 minutes, and then the other debater will do the reverse, ask questions to his opponent, for 8 to 10 minutes. After that, they usually have a break, and then they will, after the cross-examination and the break, then they'll have questions from the callers, okay, questions from the audience, and then each person will have a closing statement. So the opening statement, Brother Zadok Ben Israel, and mind you, I've never spoken to either one of these gentlemen, so I have no personal stake in the debate. Zadok Ben Israel, he has an opening statement, goes well, and he's of the position that the Old Testament laws valid. Okay, he also made clear that some of the Old Testament laws cannot be kept, and so they're not necessarily done away with, but suspended. For instance, the sacrificial law. Like right now, we're not supposed to sacrifice animal because it is suspended. That's his position. Okay, on the other side, you have Brother Minister, who says that we're under a new covenant. Most of the laws from the Old Testament, we don't have to keep anymore. We can't keep it, namely animal sacrifice. So they proceed and they go through their, their opening statements, and then they have their rebuttal rounds. Okay, and it's some pretty typical stuff. Obviously, Zadok Ben Israel was using the whole Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, and just trying to transition us, or the listening audience, from Old Testament to New Testament, and how the the old and the new, how they go together, and how the laws kind of transition. And as one would expect, Brother Minister, he would use a lot of Paul's writings from the New Testament, and to justify that you don't have to do it. In fact, through his argumentation, and you can listen to it, he would say that you can eat pork, you don't have to be circumcised, you don't have to, you don't do sacrifices because Jesus is a sacrifice and stuff. Things that you would typically hear if you've been on both sides of the argument, if you heard a debate about it. But here's where the debate gets interesting. It gets interesting when it's time for the cross-examination. Now, in the cross-examination, Brother Minister was first, and it was his job. He had 8 minutes to ask Zadok questions. And one of the first things he said immediately was that I don't have any questions for the brother because I don't want a lot of confusion, okay, to be in the air or whatever. But I do have some scriptures that I want to read. Now, the format is given to everybody, okay, and it's given to everyone beforehand. And so Sal, the host, steps in and says, hey, you know, listen, that's not what the format is. This is the cross-examination portion of the debate. And of course, Brother Minister was insisting that, hey, you know what, I'm allotted 8 minutes and let me just use it the way I want to use it, kind of thing. If you listen to it, you'll listen to the debate, just click on the link below. But he said, I'm allotted 8 minutes, so what I'll do is I'll just use my 8 minutes just to read some scripture. And of course, Sal was trying to correct him on that and say, hey, look, that's not the format. That's not what we agreed to. And you don't just come and then change the rules, you know, at the last minute, you know, just change the rules. I wouldn't go to your platform to do that. So an argument ensued, okay, between the host and one of the debaters. Okay, so it took a minute for that to get on track. Sal made it very clear, you know, the format of the show. He even says what the format is at the beginning of the show. So he says, so no, you can't just read scriptures and then at the very end, you know, ask one single question or whatever. That's just not the format. That's just not how it works. So they pressed forward. The time was still running. And so they pressed forward and stuff. So what happened is Zadok began to ask his questions on the cross-examination. Zadok begins to ask him a question. He asks him his first question. And then Brother Minister starts to answer by just reading scripture. Okay, had nothing to do with the question that was asked him. And then Zadok asked another question, and Brother Minister proceeds to read more scripture. And so Brother Zadok quickly realized what was going on, which was simply Brother Minister started to read what he wanted to read in the first place. And this, if you guys want to go to the video, it's about, if you go about an hour and 45 or hour and 40 minutes in, start about there and then start listening forward and you'll hear that whole thing. After the break, which is about an hour and 51 minutes, then you can fast forward through the break about 10 minutes and go to about something like that, and it'll be time for questions from the audience. But before I get in that, like I said, Brother Zadok realized that all he was doing, he was not answering questions, he was just reading what he wanted to read in the first place. Now, after the break, then we have Brother Minister, people asking questions, and some people commending Zadok on how he was handling the situation. Now, before we really get into the questions from the audience, Brother Minister was insisting that, you know, we wouldn't have all this confusion of time and format and all that had Zadok had a one-on-one conference call with me, but he was too scared to do it. So now the name calling started coming out and saying he was scared and saying he's a coward and saying, you know, being a crybaby and stuff like that. And Zadok would answer that and say that he's not being a coward, a crybaby or anything like that. It's just simply that I don't like you. This is what Zadok was saying. He said, I don't like you. I don't like your character. I don't like your spirit. The way you come across, I don't like it. It's unprofessional. And that's why I did not want to deal with you in a conference call at all, because I don't like the way you carry yourself. Now, as Sal began to open up the phone lines for questions from the audience, you start to hear people's concern about how Brother Minister was carrying himself, which by the audience standard, he was being very, very unprofessional, didn't want to follow the format, arguing with the host, and was just trying to push his weight around. So I'm giving you a recap and analysis of the debate. So let me finish the recap portion of it. So the people were disagreeing with how Brother Minister was carry himself and how he would avoid answering questions. And as you might guess, we get into arguments and debates with the people who was calling, and then start calling them names, you know, that they're silly and uneducated, they're liars and mockers and all this other stuff. And then Zadok really was just pretty much echoing what some of the callers were saying, that, you know, this guy is unprofessional and he's actually showing his character. So he was just pretty much telling him that this is exactly the reason why he did not want to have a one-on-one conference. Now, to the closing statements, Brother Minister was pretty much defending himself by saying that, hey, hey, they didn't like Jesus, they're not gonna like me. You know, you guys, y'all may not like my delivery. It is what it is. I'm trying to be entertaining and stuff like that, but you know, on me, and they slander. This is like a slander campaign and things of that nature. Zadok Ben Israel was pretty much apologizing for how everything went. He was hoping that in his closing statement, he was hoping that it went better, you know, and people would be edified and things like that. And then he was just trying to tell the brothers, you know, if you just change the way you carry yourself, you know, you would be better received. You would come across better, things like that. So that's the recap. So I want you to definitely click the link, watch the debate if you have time. You know, content was pretty good, but it did get a little sloppy there with some of the confusion. Now, the analysis part. The minister pretty much lost with his etiquette, his decorum, the way he handled himself in the debate. It was poor for all the reasons that I mentioned, but I was just kind of just doing a recap. But now here's my personal, you know, opinion. It's very unprofessional. He has a lot of bravado in his voice. He interrupts incessantly, and he's very condescending. Okay, now I know I don't want to make personal accusations, you know, against his. I'm just saying how he behaved during the debate. I don't know either one of these gentlemen personally, so I will not slander their character personally. I'm just talking about what you can hear by clicking the link and what I could hear just by listening. Okay, this is how it came off to me, the debate. I don't know what these gentlemen are like personally. But again, Brother Minister, he came off as condescending, the way he talked to Sal, the way he talked to his opponent, the way he talked to people on the phone. He did make some false statements. You know, one caller was saying he sounded like someone else he heard before. He said, you sound like a debater named Bleedo, or you sounded like a debater named Rob Rack. You know, you sounded like these other debaters who debated another debater by the name of Josh from ABT. And then he goes on and on and on. Brother Minister goes on in response saying, hey, you know what, this guy is lying again on me. I never debated these people. I never debated Josh. I never debated Bleedo. I never debated Rob Rack. I never debated all this. And this guy, I want to see if this guy repents. Obviously, the brother come back and he says, hey, you know, I didn't say you debated any of those people. I know you didn't debate Josh because I know Josh personally. So he was making a lot of false accusations and wasn't really listening. So his listening skill, Brother Minister's listening skill was very, very poor. Okay. And his condescending attitude and his bravado. Now, the way someone, you know, presents it or whatever, that's fine. It's, you know, could be personal preference or whatever. Some people might like an in-your-face style, yelling and things like that. Some people might like a laid-back style or whatever. So I'm not docking him on that. I'm just saying the result of how he presented himself. Okay, the result is it came off condescending. He came off dishonest when he was making accusations and saying things that were not said. And then he didn't make very good points in the debate, the actual content, because I know some of you guys say, well, Israelite Prepper, you're not saying, you know, as far as what was his points on the topic, because it's about the debate. He didn't have a firm grasp, Brother Minister, he didn't have a firm grasp on scripture, or he may have used a couple of things out of context. He looks at things different. Now, of course, you can say, oh, well, you know, you're biased. Of course, you're going to agree with the Israelite. I understand. But remember, I told you that just because someone is Israelite doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them. For example, I forgot the debater's name. What is his name? His name escapes me right now, but there was a debate on there where the sons of God was debating, well, one of the sons of God was debating one gentleman talking about is Jesus a Messiah, you know, found in the scripture and stuff like that. And this Israelite brother is, I believe, he's Tanakh only, you know, which means he only believes in the Old Testament and the sons of God. The sons of God won that debate. Okay, and these guys are Christians. Okay, soldiers. I'm sorry, soldiers of God. Excuse me. But these guys won that debate. These it was clear. Okay, they had succinct. They had good argumentation. It was clear. And I don't believe, you know, their way. I don't see the Bible the way they see the Bible. However, they presented their argumentation much better than the Israelite. Therefore, they won the debate. Just to give you an example, Zadok ben Israel, clear, concise. Okay, succinct, stuck. He did stick to the topic. He carried himself very, very well. It's not about, you know, his presentation or I like personality or not. You know, there's a fantastic, phenomenal debater, you know, Brother Josh. He yells a lot. Okay, and Zadok ben Israel is more, you know, relaxed, laid back. I like both of the gentlemen. So it's not a preference on how someone presents their argument. It really is the content. But if you are insulting people and you're calling them names and you're just thinking, you know, it's all about you. You're trying to just kind of promote what you're trying to promote, and it's just all about you. You know, it's a big ego fest. You know, just feeding your ego. Come to me. I'm the wellspring of knowledge kind of attitude. It just comes off that way, and it doesn't matter if you yell it or if you say it really, really soft. Okay, I'm talking about the result of how you present your argumentation. So I have to give the argument to Zadok ben Israel. I'm sure you guys were deducing that early on. However, look at the debate, listen, and see if what I said is so. It's just a matter of opinion. But comment, rate, subscribe. Tell me what you think about the debate after you had a chance to watch it. Until next time, this Israelite Prepper